I've been married to the same man for nearly 4 decades. For most of that time, I thought I had life figured out. Love, loyalty, partnership. I wasn't someone who chased excitement or stirred up drama. I liked things steady, simple, predictable. But sometimes life taps you on the shoulder when you're not looking and whispers, "Not yet." I never thought something like this would happen to me. Please don't make the same mistake I did. It started on a gray Tuesday afternoon. Just finished helping set up for a retirement luncheon at my husband's office. Mike had asked if I could lend a hand. They were short-staffed and I was happy to help. I liked feeling useful. The office buzzed with that odd mix of celebration and quiet melancholy. Balloons, fruit platters, lukewarm sparkling cider. People making small talk like it was their job. I didn't know many of them, but I smiled anyway. That's just what you do. Mike was caught in conversation with the guest of honor. I figured I'd slip out and wait in the car. That's when I heard the voice behind me. "Need a ride, Mrs. Callahan." I turned. It was Nathan, one of Mike's younger coworkers. I recognized him from a few Christmas parties. Early 30s, maybe mid. Tall, dark hair, always slightly unkempt, like he forgot to brush it but somehow made it look intentional. Polite, funny, not loud, not flirtatious, just present. The kind of man you don't notice until you realize you've been looking at him a second too long. "Oh, no thanks," I said. "I'm just heading to the car. I can wait." He glanced at the sky. "Looks like rain's coming." I parked close. "I don't mind at all." I hesitated. I really did. But my feet ached, and the sky had turned that dull bruise purple. I nodded. His car smelled faintly of peppermint and leather clean, but lived in. He turned down the radio as I got in. We settled into that gentle silence between two people who aren't quite sure what to say. "You helped a lot in there," he said after a moment. "Everyone noticed." "Just try to be useful," I replied, eyes fixed on the windshield. The rain had begun soft, tentative drops. He smiled. "It's what people like you do, huh? Always helping. It's always in the background." I wasn't sure how to take that. "People like me?" I asked, half-dashed, joking. He looked embarrassed. "I didn't mean it badly. I just think most people don't realize how much women like you hold things together." Something in my chest caught. No one had said anything like that to me in years, maybe ever. I studied him more closely, but he kept his eyes on the roadsteady.com. "Sometimes," I said, voice low, "it feels like I became invisible after 50. Nathan glanced at me, then back at the road. "You're not invisible, Nora." The way he said my name made me sit a little straighter. It's like I'd forgotten who I was, and he'd reminded me. We fell into silence again, the rain growing louder on the roof. I expected him to stop at the gate, but instead he turned down the side road to our house. "You know where we live?" asked, surprised. "I've dropped Mike off before after the company baseball game." "You weren't home that day." "Oh," I said, though I didn't remember. I wasn't sure what I was supposed to feel. He pulled into the driveway, shifted the car into park, but didn't turn off the engine. Rain streaked the windows like paintbrush strokes. "Thanks for the ride," I said, reaching for the door handle. But before I could open it, he spoke. "Nora, can I ask you something?" "You can tell me to shut up if it's out of line." I paused. His voice was soft, hesitant. I turned to him. "Okay." He looked at Manat in a way that made me feel self-conscious or small, but like he was really seeing me. Not just as someone's wife or a mother or a woman past a certain age, but as a whole person. "Are you happy?" he asked. Just like that, I blinked. A warmth spread through my chest, followed quickly by a wave of guilt. "That's a complicated question," I said. He nodded. "I think it's supposed to be." I didn't know what to say. No one had asked me something like that in decades. People assume, they guess, but they don't ask. And I saw something in him I wasn't ready for: curiosity, kindness, maybe even longing. Not lust, not recklessness, just connection. My throat tightened. I should go. He nodded again. "Of course." But he didn't move, didn't start the car. I stepped out into the rain. I didn't rush. I let it soak through my blouse, my hair, my spine. Cold, clean, confusing. Mike was still inside, still laughing with colleagues. He wouldn't be home for another hour. And Nathan. He was still sitting there when I glanced back just before stepping inside. Later, in the kitchen, towel drying my hair, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Awake. I didn't sleep well that night. I lay beside Mike, listening to his soft snore, that slow, rhythmic rasp I'd heard for years. It had always sounded familiar. Safe, but that night it felt distant, like something from another room. Nathan's question kept echoing in my head. Are you happy? The last time I remembered answering that question honestly, I was in my 20s. Life was messy but full: kids, chaos, burned dinners, inside jokes, mortgage stress, and Saturday mornings in mismatched pajamas. But somewhere along the way, the sound faded. We stopped laughing, stopped talking, and somehow, without realizing it, we had drifted in silence, still in the same room, just apart. The next morning, I did what I always did: made coffee, folded laundry, watered the plants by the window. Mike kissed my cheek on the way out, muttered something about meetings and traffic. I smiled and nodded, like always. That mechanical, well-practiced smile. Then Theodore closed, and I just stood there, still holding the dish towel. A notification buzzed. On my phone, Nathan, "Hey, I hope I didn't cross the line yesterday." I stared at the message for a long while. Mithams hovered over the screen. "Me. No, you didn't. Just caught me off guard," he replied. Almost immediately, "Nathan, that's fair." It wasn't really a fair question to ask, but I've been thinking about you since the party. The way you looked away. I don't know why I noticed, but I didn't respond right away. I walked around the living room, picked up a stray sock from Ender. The couch rearranged a picture frame that was already straight. My heart was tapping a little faster than its hold have been. Finally, I typed me. "You're not wrong. I have been invisible for a long time." He didn't answer for a while. I imagined him reading it, slowly, maybe thinking hard about how to reply. He did. It wasn't what I expected, but "Nathan, would you like to get a coffee sometime? Just talk." Nothing more. Is that down at the kitchen table? Sam table where I'd served thousands of meals, where birthday candles were blown out, where bills were paid, and arguments whispered, and now here. I was staring at a message from a man half my age asking to talk. I didn't say yes, not right away, but I didn't say no either. That Thursday, I told Mike I was running errands. I wore something that hadn't seen daylight in years. A navy blouse that hugged the parts of me I used to love. I took extra care with my makeup, though I told myself it was just out of habit. We met at Asmal Cafe, tucked away on a side street, almost forgotten existed, the kind with wooden floors and soft jazz. And little handwritten menus, not Nathan's tude. When I walked in, he looked freshly showered, his sleeves rolled up, a quiet smile on his face. "I wasn't sure you'd come." He said. "Neither was I." I replied, and it was the truth. We sat in a quiet corner. Talked about nothing at first: books, weather, traffic, but then conversation deepened without warning. Like stepping from a shallow pool into open sea, he told me about his parents' divorce, about how he watched us mother disappear into the role of ex-wife and never quite return to herself. How she taught him to notice one. Women get quiet in their own homes. I told him about my kids, how I missaid one, they were little, how I sometimes resented their freedom. How I loved Mike, but sometimes I wasn't sure I still knew him. The coffee got cold, and yet Westade. At one point, I reached for my cue pen. Our fingers brushed. I froze. So, Diot. That spark, tiny but undeniable, flashed between us. I pulled my hand back, not looking for anything reckless, I said. He nodded. "Neither am I." I wanted to believe we could keep whatever this was safe contained. But something had already shifted. The air between us wasn't nascent anymore. When we finally stood to leave, he touched my elbow gently. "Thank you for saying yes." He said. I drove home with the windows cracked, letting Thoin tangle my hair, and As I pulled in a driveway, I caught myself smiling not because of what had happened, but because of what might. The days that followed were quiet on the outside, but noisy inside my head. Mike didn't notice anything. It's different dot, or if he did, hadn't. Say a word, we still had dinner at 7, still watched door shows in the evening, but I kept thinking about that moment in the Cafanathan's hand brushing mine, the way Hi-Sai stayed with me when he spoke. Not flirtatious, not dramatic, just presented, like he saw me as someone worth. Listening to it scared me how much that meant. I tried to shake it off. Tried baking, gardening, anything to fill the hours. But late at night, when the house got stilled, I sat alone in the den with only Thelem on. I found myself replaying our conversation. The words really dot the feeling off them, like I'd stepped through a door I didn't know was there. The next time Nathan texted me, I didn't hesitate. Nathan, I found this spot by the lake, quiet, peaceful, want to go for a walk. Dom, what time it was? A Sunday afternoon, the kind of day that felt like it could go either way, lazy or heavy. I wore a sweater and jeans. Comfortable, not intentional. At least that's what I told myself. He was already there when I pulled up, leaning against the hood, office. Car, hands in his pockets, the wind was light. The sky, the pale blue gray that makes everything feel softer. Wooked in silence at first. Bird chirped in the distance, leaves crunched underfoot. The path curved along the edge of the water, and I could smell pine and something sweet in the breeze. Do you ever wonder, he said, what your life would look like if you'd made just on a different decision? I looked at him. Which own any of them a missed opportunity, a conversation you never had. I stopped walking. Why are you asking me this? Headern to face me because I see you thinking about it every time we talk. My throat felt tight, not from anger, from something deeper. A mix of grief and longing. I didn't come here to do nothing wrong, I whispered. I don't want to betray anyone you haven't, he said gently. Not yet. The wind picked up a little. A loose strand of my hair blew across my face, and before I could fix, I've reached out and tucked it behind me. It was such a simple gesture, and yet my body responded like it had been waiting to be touched for years. I stepped back. I'm married. I said, almost to remind myself, I know you're Ryan. I'm not that young. He replied, a sad smile tuffing at his lips. And you're not old, you're more alive than anon. I know. I didn't know what to do. Us that we sat on a bench overlooking the lake. The sun had started to dip, casting gold over the water. Why me? Iffinally asked. Nathan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Because you care. A silence, like it's something you earned. Because you laugh with your eyes before your mouth. Because the first time I saw you, you looked like you were holding thrilled together with thread and a tired smile. I closed my eyes. No one had ever said anything like that to me. Notin, a lifetime. We didn't kiss, we didn't even touch again, but something unspoken passed between us on that bench, something irreversible. When I got home that night, Mike was watching a game, a beaver in his hand. He barely glanced up. Hey babe, everything okay? I said quietly, just needed some fresh air. He nodded. Us already back on the screen, and I stood there in the doorway for a long time, wondering how love could fade so gently you didn't even realize it was gone until someone came along and made you'll feel it again. The following week felt like standing on the edge of something you couldn't name. I moved through my routines, laundry, phone calls with Theckett's, cooking dinner like always. But Mimmin kept drifting back to that bench by Flake, to the quiet between Nathan and them that had somehow said more than words ever could. We hadn't made plans to see each other again, but I felt I'm a very aware in the breeze, all my morning walks and the ache I didn't know I'd been carrying for years. I started noticing things about Mike, the way he chewed his food with his eyes fixed on the TV. The way he never asked how my day had been in the way I'd stopped expecting him to do. It wasn't anger I felt, it was distance, quiet, polite distance built over time, layer upon layer of unspoken things. 3 days later, I ran into Nathan at the grocery store of all places. I was in the produce aisle checking a tomato for openness when I heard his voice behind me, still the best eyes in the room. Ittered too quickly, heart pounding like Eid. Been caught doing something wrong, but he wasn't grinning or teasing, just watching me, gently waiting. Nathan, I breathed. You scared me. Didn't mean to. He looked down at the basket in his hand. Wasn't sure I'd see you again. I hesitated. I wasn't sure. Either. There was a pause. The store hummed around us, shopping carts rolling, soft music playing. It's an old woman asking where thieves were. He cleared his throat. I think about you. I felt the words like a pressure on my chest. No, this isn't sustainable. I said this thing between us, it can't go where it wants to go. I know, he said quietly, but that doesn't mean it wasn't real. Wes stood there for a long moment, neither of us knowing what to do next. Then finally I nodded. Walk me to my car outside. The air smelled like rain again. We didn't speak as we walked, just Mavatager in step like we always had. Tapped my car. I stopped and turned to him. I can't be someone who lies, Nathan. Not to him and not to myself. I don't want you to be, he said. But I needed you to know you woke something in me, something I didn't know I could feel again. The tears came before I could stop them. Soft, most apologetic, you did the same, Falm. I whispered. He stepped forward, and for the first time we embraced, urgency. No heat, just closeness, his arms around me, my cheek against his shoulder, quiet ache of letting go. Then he pulled back. Goodbye, Nora. Goodbye. Just like that, he was walking away. I sat in the car for a while before starting the engine, watched the taillights of his car fade out of the lot. I didn't cry again. I just sat with the truth when he got home. I found Mike in the backyard, fiddling with the grill. The scent off charcoal and lighter fluid hung in their hay. He said, wiping his hands, I was thinking we could have burgers tonight like old times. I nodded. That sounds nice. He looked at me a little longer than usual. You okay? And first time in a long while, I told truth. I'm not sure, I said. But I want to be. We stood there quietly as the sky turned orange above us. It wasn't closure, not. Really, it wasn't an ending or a beginning. It was a moment, and sometimes moments are all we get, but they're enough to wake us up, to remind us we're still here, still capable of feeling, of choosing, of changing even after all this time. Thanks for listening.